Hi everyone, it's Debbie with Book and Bujo. Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you've been here before. Join me today as I try and go through HRCYED 3.0 and figure out what books I'm going to read. Let's just go ahead and go straight through. I think I found a book for everything with no doubling up. Now, this doesn't mean that's what I'm going to end up doing, but that's the plan so far. No double ups and one book per prompt and all of that fun stuff. Let's go ahead. Here's the all-in-one spreadsheet with like the planning and things like that. So this is the bingo board and of course the new logo. And if you're not quite sure what HRCYED 3.0 is, I will let Cordy tell you herself because she does an amazing job. It's a great video and I will leave that link down below for you in the description box. Now, I did not take part in HRCYED 1.0 because by the time I heard about it, it was already kind of halfway through and I was going to go through and like backlog the books and whatever. And I was like, you know what? Never mind. We're so close to HRCYED 2.0. I'm just going to do that one. So I did do HRCYED 2.0. I'm so close, almost have a blackout. I only have, I think, 2 books left to read. I have my new release for June, and which is on my TBR, and I have it ready to go. It's going to be the next book that I read. And then the other one is to finish one more Bengali book, which I am currently reading. So I should have that one complete. Now, I did do the double ups and a triple up when the secret prompt allowed that, but it was so much fun. So much fun. And I found some great books I never would have picked up. So I am looking forward to trying out 3.0. So let's go ahead and move to the spreadsheet and see what I'm going to do. So here is again the bingo board. There's only 5 purple squares this time and they're in the corners. There's one here hiding behind me and then the other 4 corners and the one in the middle. The spreadsheet has the prompts and all of the information for all of those in here as well. So in case you need a refresher or need some more information. So like the periodic table of elements, if you're not really quite sure exactly off the top of your head from memory, know what any of those are, they're all listed here for you. And then, of course, your log, the ones that you've actually read, so you could put them in here and then click the checkbox when you've read them. And there's, again, the tracker, the HRCYED stats, how to play. This one is all in the all-in-one spreadsheet. There's 2 other spreadsheets as well that you can kind of choose from. And then the planning tab is the one that we want. And I've already kind of put everything in here, and let's go ahead and see how it's going to work. So for the first square, it's choose your party, and this is one of the purple ones. And this one, there are 5 different books. So I think in total, there's 150 books that you will read if you do not double up and you just do one for every single prompt. So there's pretty much 150 prompts. So you can double up for all of them. And so kind of cut that in half, or you can read the 150. We'll see what actually happens after July 7th when this starts. Okay, so to start, we have Choose Your Party, which is the first purple square in that upper left corner. You need to read 5 different books for this one. And this prompt is all about the profession of protagonist in like the D&D world. You get to choose from a list of characters in Dungeons & Dragons. So you can have barbarian, a bard, a cleric, druid, fighter, so on and so forth. And for mine, I have decided to go with the first one is a druid, and that will be Heartsworn by David Estes. For Fae, Reign of Shadow and Endings by Melissa K. Rorick. I have a bard, and these ones, so when I was trying to figure out all of the books, I'm going through kind of the books I can think of off the top of my head, the popular books, things like that, ones I kind of want to read. But then I'm also like, maybe I should try and figure out books that I own already that are on my shelves back here, on my Kindle, on my the audiobooks I have, things that are on my 26 and 26 list, my, all of those, the 13 chunky books I want to read, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I chose a lot of the books that I have, or at least tried. That's where I tried to find the books. So this next one, I have a list of all the Kindle books that I own, like a little spreadsheet. And so I just went in and started typing things like Bard and hoping there was a title in there that had Bard. And there was, and it is Breaking Bard by A.J. Wiseman. And that will be kind of fun. And then we have, for a paladin, Heart of the Ronin, and he is a samurai, and that is by Travis Heerman. And then lastly, a sorcerer, and that is Death Speaks, the second book in the Death series by Tamara Rose Blodgett. And then we come back to the prompts over here, and we go to the periodic table of elements. And of course, more likely to find ones, and might have some. So I kind of went through here and I tried not to take like gold or silver or iron or, the ones that you're going to find. And I kind of did a search to see what I had already on my shelves that might fit this. And I have a couple with neon in the title, but it's the series name or like the subtitle. It's not the actual title of the book. So I ended up not choosing those, which is kind of a bummer because I was like, oh, I have it. I have that. And I think there was a couple others. Oh no, there was one. It was Selenium. And I was like, oh, I have a book with Selenium in the title. And then I realized it was one of my husband's books for software developers. So it was a programming language. So yeah, not going to read that one. So for Tin, I did find The Witch of Tin Mountain by Paulette Kennedy. For Cobalt, that could have worked this year. I read Cobalt Red, but I already read that, so no. But I did have one just called Cobalt, and that is by A.L. Knorr. And then I found Mercury's Shadow by P.J. Garson. The Silicone Joust by Tobias Gray, and Traces of Sulfur by Madeline Freeman. So I was so excited to find some of the more obscure elements for words in book titles. And then we go to familial terms. And so these ones are things like father, mother, brother, sister, aunt, cousin, those kind of things. And for those, I did choose, and I forgot the little modifiers here. So there's a gamification option, which is kind of fun. And that is to roll a 6-sided die and then add that prompt to your other prompts, or add the modifier to your other prompts. And one of the options was a new to you author. So the gamified dice rolling here is these, and it must be from authors you've never read from before, non-white authors, disabled or uncommon, queer authors or stories, self-published authors, and choose 2 of the previous levels, which is the 6th one. So I'm assuming 2 of these, so a non-white queer author could be an option for that. So you can modify the entire bingo square with 1 dice roll. You can choose to modify just 1 book or select a number with 1 dice roll. So what I decided to do was every so often I would just do a random one. I would just roll and pick one that fit in that category. And so for Choose Your Party, I did choose the Bard one, was a new to me author. And then for this one, the Familial Terms, I started with Her Fake Irish Husband by Michelle Browder and Jessica Pierce. And that one, it looks like it's going to be kind of a fun one. It is the second book in a series, but when I looked it up, they're not following the same people. So it's kind of like you have the first book has like the main character and like 2 of their friends or 2 people that they interact with. And the second book is one of those people, that kind of series. So I'm assuming that I can read the second book without having to read the first one, since I actually don't own the first one. I only own the second one, which I'm not sure how that happened, but that's okay. And then secondly is Mother of Learning, Arc 3 by Domagoy Kermayak. So I did listen to the audiobook, and that is how the audiobook narrator pronounced the name of the author. So Domagoy Kermayak. So I'm trying to remember that. And then I did roll for this next one, and I ended up getting non-white author, and I went with Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. And then a stepsister, and that is The Ugly Stepsister Strikes Back by Soraya Wilson. And then lastly, we have Grandfather Anonymous by Anthony W. Eichenlaub. Don't know anything about that one, but it seems interesting. I just read like a little snippet in the synopsis, like one sentence in there, and it sounded interesting. I'm excited to get to that one. And then we move to Traipsing Through the Regions. And for that one, let's come on back over here. Regional books. So last year we had the continents, had to go through all the different continents with the bonus of Antarctica. This time it's regions. So you could do like the Bible Belt, you can do the Southwest, the South, Mediterranean, South Asian, Swana, Eastern Europe, Eastern Asian, the Caribbean, those kind of things. And for mine, I chose to go with Swana for the first one, and that is The Stationery Shop by Marjan Kanmaki. And then The Island of Missing Trees, which sounds interesting. I was like, I'll give that one a try, by Elif Shafak, and that is for the Mediterranean region. And then for the Pacific Islands, Life of Pi by Jan Martel. And then The Dry by Jane Harper, which is from the Oceania region. And that includes Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, like that area. And then for East Asian is Pachinko by Minjin Lee. And I've been wanting to read that one for a while. So excited for those. And then we move into Choose Your Curriculum. And again, 5 options for this one. Choose your curriculum. So it's time to go back to school. Find books based on classes you would take in school. So like math, science, history, music. They don't have to be nonfiction, and need to do 5 different classes. So you can't do all math or all foreign language studies or all art or anything like that. So they need to be different ones. And I decided to study music with Our Dark Duet by V.E. Schwab. That's the second book in the series, Monsters of Verity series, I think. And then for history, I'm going to do the second book in the Kingsbridge series. I think that's what it's called, but it's the Pillars of the Earth is the first book. And I'm going to read World Without End, the second one. For business, I decided to go with The 12-Week Year by Brian P. Moran. For math, The Rhythmatist by Brandon Sanderson. And then for foreign language, which you can just read a translated book, I decided to go with War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Yes, I put that on here. We have a year. Have a year to read it, so it should be good. And then we go to the U.S. road trip, which, I mean, how fun. Now, of course, you can use any region. If you're not in the U.S., you can use a road trip across France or Canada or Africa, wherever you are. And for this one, you need to choose 5 books from different states or provinces, territories. But they cannot be set in the most popular or common ones like New York or California. Those are the most common ones in the US. So you couldn't have one that was based in Paris or Milan, that kind of thing. There's a lot of books in those areas. So you want to kind of go outside of the norm and pick something different. So I decided to try and hit states that I did not get to for HRCYED 2.0, and one of them was The Last Vampire by Romina Garber, and that one is set in New Hampshire. And then for Kentucky, we have The Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. Now, I'm excited for that one. I loved The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow, so I'm super excited to get to another one of their books. And then for Florida, I don't think it technically says it's based in Florida, but most people say it is set in Florida, so I'm going with that. And that's Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. And then for Idaho, we have Pines by Blake Crouch. And for Montana, The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. And again, I've read one of their books this year and looking forward to getting to another one. And then for Bookception, we only have 2 for this one, which is kind of nice. Well, and for this one, basically you want to read a book that mentions another book that's actually a book in real life, and then read that book. And I've read quite a few books that talk about like actual books, but I've already read them. But if you want a couple examples, the Astral Library is a great one. That mentions a ton of different books. And then also Secrets of the Catalog, Dash and Lily. So you could also read like The Eyre Affair, mentions Jane Eyre quite a bit. So you could read The Eyre Affair and then read Jane Eyre. But I've already read both of those. But the one I did pick is actually the second book in the Thursday Next series, which is The Eyre Affair. And I'm going to go ahead and read the second book in that series, which is Lost in a Good Book. And apparently that one mentions Great Expectations, which is on my classic list that I want to read. And so then I will be reading Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Now, Lost in a Good Book is by Jasper Fforde. Next, we have the not-so-secret prompts. So in case you didn't get to the secret prompts in HRCYED 2.0, you get to now. I actually did all of the secret prompts, and now I get to do them all again. So I do have a couple where I have kind of TBD on those, just because I'm not quite sure. I mean, I could put something in them, but I'd rather wait until I actually get to them to put something in there. It's like read a whole book outside. You can grab a graphic novel or a little novella, or you can take a week and take a walk every morning and listen to an audiobook during that time and finish it over the next, like, over a month even if you wanted. And the other one that's kind of a TBD is most recent acquisition. We'll just see what acquisition I make when I get to that one. So the first one is read a book outside, again, TBD on that one. And then we have pun in the title. Last time I read The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. That was great. Highly recommend. Very fun. But this time I'm going to put the second book in a series, and that is Dating and Dragons, and that's by Christy Boyce. I love the first book in the series, and I am looking forward to getting to the second one. I think this is another one where you get to kind of go through the different characters that were in the first book and get something from their perspective, so that'll be fun. And next we have Missed Childhood chapter book. I'm going to read The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. And then we have Coat of Many Colors. So you want to read a book with one of the colors from Joseph's Coat of Many Colors, from Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. It has a whole list of colors in there. And in her video, Cordy gives every single color that is in the Coat of Many Colors. So there's very many to choose from. And I think I chose red last time, and that's kind of what I went with this time too. But I decided to go with The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Got to get my classics in there. And oh yeah, and the next one is Doom Scroll. That's another one that's kind of a TBD. I will just go through BookTube, Bookstagram, Storygraph. You know, I'll go through one of the feeds from that and see what I see and choose a book from that. And then we have Last Name is a First Name. I'm going to go with The 13th Child by Aaron A. Craig. And then another TBD one is craft. So there's two options on this one. You can either choose a book that has a craft on the cover, like someone crocheting or embroidery or sculpting or something like that, painting. Or you can listen to an audiobook and work on a craft at the same time. So that's most likely the choice I'm going to make, and I will figure out what book that is once the time comes. And then we have a first and last name in the title. I'm kind of excited about this one. So this is one of the books that is mentioned in the book Dash and Lily, in case you want to read that. And this one is From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankenweiler. And I think that is by E.L. Kingsburg. I think that's right. I did not write that down, but yeah, I think that's it. And then we have Tag, a classic you've put off. Now, I've already put a lot of classics on here, so I can definitely double up if I need to. So that's my little caveat. If we get to, next year and we're getting to the end and I'm missing a whole lot of books, I'm going to start doubling up on them. But for now, we'll do singles. And I put in Camille by Alexandra Dumas. And then we have Title is the Same as Another. There are so many books. I think last time Catabasis is definitely one. That's one of the ones. Sky of Fire is another one that has multiple names. But I'm going to go with The Road by Cormac McCarthy. And the last two, cover features movement. I am going to read Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. And this one, it's kind of hard to tell from the little thumbnail here, but there are cows moving across the road. So that one will be fun. And then lastly, most recent acquisition. I will figure that one out when the time comes. And then next we have cover styles. And for that one, you only have to do 4 of them. And basically you need like something with illustrated art on the cover, or it's all portrait or all landscape, typographic, filigreed, minimalist, maximalist, adaptation poster on the cover. There's so many different options. Real people on the cover, drawings on the cover, you know, so many different options. And for the first one, I chose typographic covers, and I went with Love by Toni Morrison. A minimal cover, and I went with Room by Emma Donoghue. I believe this one has a movie adaptation as well, and so it has a movie adapted cover on it. And then an illustrated cover, Sabriel by Garth Nix, and a symbol on the cover, and that is Recursion by Blake Crouch. And then next we have Titular Counting, and that one is Who Doesn't Love Counting the Number of Words in a Title? So read books with different amounts of words from 1 to 10. So a 1-word title, a 2-word title, 3, 4, 5-word title, etc. All right, 1-word title, Orconomics by J. Zachary Pike. 2-word title, Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. 3 words, Searching for Dragons by Patricia C. Weirdy. 4 words, The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. 5, City of Souls and Sinners by Kayla Edwards. 6, An Echo of Things to Come by James Islington. 7, How to Find Love in a Bookshop by Veronica Henry. 8, Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky by Kwame Mumbalia. 9, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alir Sanez. And then we have 10-word title, I Used to Know That, Stuff You Forgot from School by Carolyn Taggart. So that was a nonfiction. We'll see how I feel about that one. It should be interesting anyway. I'm sure I'm going to be like, oh yeah, a lot. Next we have Characters to Authors. And this one is fairly straightforward. You're making a chain. So basically you read a book, and then the main character from that book has to be the author name in the next book. And then the character from that book has to be the author name in the next book. So you basically have 3 books. Only 2 of them are technically chained. Like you can pick whatever you want for the first book, and then the next 2 need to chain from there. This one actually ended up being not as hard as I thought. I started searching for main character, like a book that I wanted to read, and then trying to search for a book that had the main character as the author's name, and then that's what I used for the first book, and then the book I wanted to read second, and then so on and so forth. So the first one is Remarkably Bright Creatures, and that is by Shelby Van Pelt, and one of the main characters is Cameron, and so I decided to go with Circus by Cameron Jace. And this is part of the Insanity series, and the main character in that book is Alice. And so then I went to Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. Only 3 on that one. The next one has 5 options, and this is Shiritori. And this is another chaining one. Shiritori. Take the title of a book and then use the last letter of that title to start the next book. Or you can use the entire word if you want. So if the last word is end, then the first word of the next book needs to be end. Or you can just use the D. So if it ends with a D, then the next book needs to start with a D. And again, this one wasn't too hard. So I started with Lightbringer, because that's one I definitely want to read soon. And of course that ends with an R. Lightbringer by Pierce Brown, the 6th book in the Red Rising series. Can't wait till the next one comes out. And then we have, was that Red God? Yeah, definitely want to read that. So Lightbringer ends with an R. So then I needed a book that started with an R, and that is Right Thing Right Now by Ryan Holiday. And so then that ended with a W. So now I need a book that starts with a W. Winter, the final book in the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, ends in an R. So Remnants of Dawn by Elliot Brooks, the 2nd book in the series. And that one ends with an N. And then I chose Nefertiti's Heart by A.W. Exley. I forgot to mention earlier when we were going through the characters to authors. I did a dice roll on this one as well, and I had to have LGBTQIA plus representation, and that's another reason I picked Heartstopper. And then for Shiritori, I rolled a self-published book, and Nefertiti's Heart is self-published. And the next one is HRCYED Mash-Up. And for this one, you need to take a prompt from HRCYED 1 and a prompt from HRCYED 2 and mash them together and create a new prompt. So a book needs to fit both of those prompts. And you need to do that 5 times. So let's see what I chose. I ended up choosing one of the same ones I did in HRCYED 2.0. So in HRCYED 2.0, you got to choose your favorite prompt from 1.0, and I ended up choosing the same one, but it is a different way. So the first one I chose, published in the year you were born, from HRCYED 1, and I added that to won an award from HRCYED 2, and I decided to go with Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. And then I did a dice roll and got non-white author, and so I chose from HRCYED 1 a 4+ book series, and HRCYED 2 a BIPOC author, and I went with Wall of Storms by Ken Liu, which is the second book in the Dandelion Dynasty, which does have 4 books in the series. Now for these, you only have to do 1 book for each of the prompts. So even though it was you originally had to read all 4 books in the series, which, I mean, spoiler, I do have 2 of the books on here. I've already read the first one, and then the next 2 are actually on here. So you only have to do 1 of them. Next, I decided to go crazy and do the dice roll again, as you can see, and I got new author, and so I decided to go with The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee, and he is an author tuber, which is from HRCYED 1, and subgenre of choice, and this one is fantasy, and it's grimdark and high and epic fantasy. So there's my 2 subgenres I put in there. And then we had another dice roll as LGBTQIA plus representation, and the prompts I chose were 500+ pages in a day, and this one technically is 503 pages, so I mean it's over 500. And then mash that with Heritage Month from HRCYED 2, and the author is an Indigenous author, and that is Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse, the 3rd book in the Between Earth and Sky series. And lastly, Closed Campus, lowest rated from HRCYED 1, mashed together with Spooky Creatures from HRCYED 2, and this book is 3.33 ratings, and the Spooky Creatures is zombies. And now we are going to move to Numerical Titles. And you ask, how is this different from the Titular Counting? Well, that one, you had a 1-word title, a 2-word title, 3-word title. This one, you have to have the words 1 through 10, and then an extra one in there with a random number in it. So it has to have the word 1, the word 2, the word 3, and then the last one could be whatever you want. Let's see what I chose. I went with One Bounce Away from Crazy by Sam Cheever, Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline, 3 Wells of the Sea by Terry Madden, The Sign of 4 by Arthur Conan Doyle. I believe this is the 2nd book in his series, the Sherlock Holmes series, which is really cool because I have read the 1st book, so I'm excited to read the 2nd book. I've read quite a few of them, just not in any particular order. And then for 5, I have Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut Jr., Angel 6 Echo by Robert Appleton, 7 Players by Adam Wadiak, 8 Cousins by Louisa May Alcott, Circle of 9 by Valerie Beale, 10 Dates by Emily James, and then for my random number, 100 Rules for Living to 100 by Dick Van Dyke. I'm very excited to read that one. Next, we have a Rainbow of Words. In HRCYED 2.0, we had to have colors on the cover. This time it's colors in the title. So the color needs to be one of the words. And you have to have red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, white, black, silver, and gold. What did I pick? For red, I have Red Shirts by John Scalzi. I'm so excited to read that one. I've been wanting to read that one for a while, and I love Star Trek, so very excited about this one. For orange, I actually could pick a lot of these could go with this one. But I have the Orange Fairy book by Andrew Lang. He also has the Green Fairy book, the Purple Fairy book, the Yellow Fairy book, the Brown Fairy book. There's quite a few of them with all the different colors. So if you really wanted to, you could probably choose all of his books for the majority of this prompt. And then I have The Yellow Tea Companion by Corey Walden, An Altar on the Village Green by Nathan Hall, Blue Sunrise by Greg Overman. Again, these are all random books that I have on my Kindle that I'm sure I got for free at some point. But why not read them all now? Purple Springs by Nellie Lee McClung, Pink Guitars and Falling Stars by Leslie O'Sullivan. That one just sounds like it's going to be fun. The Woman in Black. I wanted to read this one for a while, and that's by Susan Hill. Gothic horror. Love it. White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. I know this one was huge way back when, and I kind of missed the boat on that one, so I want to pick that one up. Silver Dollar Duke by Sally Brighton, and then lastly, A Fairy of Bones and Gold by Haley Turner. Next, we have Animal Families. And for this one, basically you're taking a family of animals, so like canines, mammals, aquatic creatures, that kind of thing, insects, birds, and read a book about those or have them on the cover. And for the first one, it's kind of small, but it is in there, and that's Splintered by A.G. Howard, and there is a butterfly right here. And then I have Octopus with The House of Always by Jen Lyons. This is part of the Chorus of Dragons series, book 4, I think. So I'm almost done with that one. I really need to finish some of these series that I'm in the middle of. And then we have, for birds, I have a Raven, and that's Raven's Cry by Dana Friedrich. And then there's a mountain lion on this one, and that's Night Shifter by Lucia Ashta. And we do have mountain lions here in Arizona, so it's one of the reasons I chose that one. This one is a horse, and then which is Modern Magic by Volume 1 by Charlotte E. English. I was looking at some other covers, and I think it's actually a unicorn. But in this cover, this is the one I have. The cover looks like a horse. I didn't realize it might have been a unicorn, so we'll see. I may have to change that one, but we'll see. I'm sure I have other books that have horses on the cover. Lots of fantasy books do. And then lastly, we have a dog right down here, and that's Ghost Mortem by Erin Lynn and Regina Welling. And then we move into biomes and landscapes. Basically, you want some type of landscape or biome on the cover. So mountains, desert, swamp, tropical, wetland, woodlands, suburban, countryside, shrubs, shrubland, prairie, savanna, tundra, those kind of things. And I chose for the first one is kind of an aquatic setting, so underwater. And that is The Devil of the Misty Lake by J.P. Barnett. And then I did another random Gamify roll, and I got self-published. And that is The Darkest Winter by Lindsay Pogue. And then for space, I went with Shards of Earth by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Prairie, Elegy by Eva Saylor. Urban, I went with Dark Creatures by Ella Stone. And then lastly, we have a desert setting, and that's The Unbroken by C.L. Clark. That's another one I kind of missed the boat on, and I've wanted to read that one. And next we have Remix. That is a story that's been told time and time again with deviations, alternate POVs, etc. Time to read 5 different variations of stories you know. So you can read 5 different ones, or you can read 5 that were all the same. I believe she said that. And I think the example she gave, if you wanted to read 5 different ones that were all about Pride and Prejudice, you could do that. And I just happened to have 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 of those. So that's actually the way I'm going to go. You have the gender bend, villain POV, deviating from the original plot after Happily Ever After. Same story, alternate universe, fan fiction, that kind of thing. So I decided to go with Carolyn Bingley, a continuation of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice by Jennifer Becton. I have The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. I have Georgiana Darcy's Diary, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice Continued by Anna Elliott. This is actually the first book in a series, so then of course I had to put the second book on the series. I don't have the third one, but I do have the first two. And the second one is Pemberley to Waterloo by Anna Elliott. And then lastly, I have Pemberley, Mr. Darcy's Dragon by Maria Grace. Of course, you also have Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which I just read by Seth Graham. And then there's also Pride and Prejudice in Space by Sybil Nelson, which looks amazing. So I may end up putting that one in there too. And then we move to the Food Pyramid, and there's 5 books for that one. Basically food on the cover, but they have to be actual food that you would actually eat in real life, like on a daily basis type of thing. And all 5 need to be different. And so I have Infused by Henrietta Lovell, and that one is tea. Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel, and of course chocolate and other things on the cover. The Kamigawa Food Detective by Hisashi Kashiwa, and that one has ramen and noodles on the cover. Let Them Eat Cake by Sandra Bird, with cake on the cover, obviously. And then Sourdough by Robin Sloan has a loaf of sourdough on the cover. And then we move to Weather, or Acts of Mother Nature. So it needs to be on the cover and actual acts of Mother Nature. So the first one here I have Wind Warrior by John Messenger, which of course is a tornado on the cover there. And then I have The Storm and the Darkness by Sarah M. Credit, and this one has a lightning storm. Advent by Seth Ring, and this one is the sunshine here. So it has to have a sun on the cover if you're going to call it sunny. And then A Kingdom of Frost and Malice by Ashley McLeod, and there's frost all over this one. And then Island of Fog by Seth Robinson, and there's definitely fog on the cover here. And then lastly, there's 6 of them. So lastly, we have Of Walks and Volcanoes by Linda Lee. Interesting combination. So I'm definitely intrigued with that one. And then we move to It's Your Birthday. And this one is all about your birth month. So your month's birthstone, a book published in your birth month in a year, your zodiac sign, Chinese zodiac sign, birth flower, birth tree, meaning of your name. And on the website for HRCYED 3.0, she does have a list of the birth flower and birth tree in case you would like to see those. And my birth month is December. For the meaning of my name, Deborah means seeking one, and it also means bee, so as in like bzz, honeybee kind of thing. And I went with The Seekers by Kate Ashwood. And then for my something published in December, Veiled Throne, the second book in the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. No, the third book in the Dandelion Dynasty. And then for my birth tree, one of them is, so you have the elder tree and the birch tree. And this one is The Birch House by Louise Erdrich. And then for birth flower, have holly, like the holly and the ivy, and that one. And I chose The Holly Tree by Charles Dickens. And then for my zodiac symbol is the Archer or Centaurs, and that is the Archer by Martin Archer. And then lastly, the last 2 I have, so you have to do 7 of these. And the last 2, Sagittarius is December, and that is a fire sign. So I have a Spark of the Everflame. And then one of the zodiac traits is Sagittarius can be explorers. They like to explore, and so I'm choosing The Voyage of the Basilisk by Marie Brennan. And then we move to Backlist Author. Choose an author. You can choose one author and read 5 backlist books from them, or 5 different authors and 1 backlist book from each. I decided to go with one author and read 5 of their backlist books, and so I have David Estes, and he wrote The Star Dwellers, which is the second book in the Moon Dwellers series. Thunder Kraken, and that is the second book in the Kraken Rider Z series, and that is co-authored with Dirk Ashton. And then another one that is David Estes co-authored books with, and that is Shadebound, Bloodbound, and Thronebound, and that is a trilogy. I have Heartsworn as well on one of the earlier prompts. And then we move into Gotta Catch 'Em All. This one I struggled a little bit with because I don't know Pokemon that was a little after my time, so I didn't really get into that. It's I must endeavor to acquire these creatures. And that is Pocket Monsters has lots of different types. So read 5 books that personify 5 different types of pocket monsters. And that is like bug, electric, fire, grass, normal, rock, flying, ghost, steel, water, psychic, ice, ground. You know, those ones. And I decided to go with a flying, and this one has a raven in flight on the cover, which could also be used for the movement prompt. That is Veiled by Morgan Rice. And then I have the kind of an electric, and that is Elemental Outcast by Sean Fletcher. Oathbreaker by Aaron Hodges for Dragon. And then for Psychic, I have Mystic Pieces by Ada Bell. And then for Poison, I have Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. And then we move into an anthology of authors. So you read an anthology, and then you have to read 6 books from 6 of the different authors in the anthology. So I chose Unavowed, and that is by a plethora. I think there's 15 to 20 different authors in here, short stories. And I actually have books from quite a few of them. I was surprised. But I decided to go with Blood Rush by Ben Galley, Champion of the Fallen by M.L. Spencer. This is the second book in the Mage of Dragon series. The Keeper Chronicles by J.A. Andrews, Never Die by Rob J. Hayes, Doomsday Match by Jeff Wheeler, and Assassin by Andy Peliquin. And that's part of the Darkblade series. And then lastly, we have Second Chances and Hidden Gems. So maybe you've soft DNF'd a book or an author and you want to give them another try. Maybe you've hard DNF'd a book and decide, you know what, I'm going to pick it back up and see what I think. Or just a random recommendation you got, maybe an author that has pretty low reviews, someone you've never heard of before. Maybe you found a book in a free little free library and you're like, oh, this looks interesting, and you never would have really noticed that author before. Those ones. And so I have a variety of those in here. So the first one I found in a little free library, and that's The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. The next one is one a series I've kind of soft DNF'd. Like I just haven't gone back to it. I like this series, but I don't love it, so, you know. But I figured now's the time to give them another chance. I believe this is the 5th book. Might be the 4th. It's the 4th or 5th book in the series, Fortuna Sworn series, and that's Beautiful Nightmares by KJ Sutton. And then the next book, it was a random find at my library in their Friends of the Library bookshop area. And it's The Ruins of Evermore by David J. Sakari. And then we have my sister's favorite book, and so this is a recommendation, and that is The Awakening by Kate Chopin. And then this last one has a 1 rating, and it is a 2.0. So this is a very low rated book, but not very many have read it either, and I don't think it's all that new. But that is Cyber Hunter Origins by D.B. Goodwins, and so I want to give that one a try and see what I think. I mean, it's cyberpunk. It's got to be at least somewhat fun, right? Sort of interesting. Yeah, so that is the 150 books that I plan on reading for HRCYED 3.0. I'm very excited to kind of wrap up HRCYED 2.0 and come out with a win and go in strong for HRCYED 3.0. Now for 2.0, I did start on July 1st, so I go through June 30th. But this one, I will probably wait until July 7th to start with everybody else, because that's Cordy's birthday. So start on July 7th and then go through July 6th of 2027. And the only reason I started early is because I just happened to read a 500 plus page book in one day on June 1st. And I'm like, no, I got to start today and count that, because who knows if I'm going to do that again, which I actually have done that a few times now. I would love to find out, are you taking part in HRCYED 3.0? Are you kind of getting excited for seeing what this is all about? I feel like this year's is a little different than the last couple years. I almost feel like the first year, parts of it seemed a little harder than the second year. And the second year was more challenging in different ways. And this one, I feel like this year just seems much more fun. Like there's a lot of really fun, interesting prompts in there. And she has a kids version, which for each prompt, you only do one book. So there's 25 books total. And she also has a regular version that's just kind of like, I ain't got time for that. So it's basically one book per prompt as well. So that makes it a lot more doable. And especially like all you need is five in a row. So 5 books in 1 year. And I think most people could probably get close to that. So if you can complete a square, that would be amazing. Yeah, and I will leave all of the information linked down below for QWERTY and for the announcement for 3.0. And I can't wait to see you for all of my check-ins to show you how I've been doing and to find out how you are all doing for HRCYED 3.0. And if you made it this far in the video, if you're not quite sure what to say but wanted to let me know that you're here, leave the number 3 in the comments to let me know. And until next time, keep planning and keep reading. Bye!